Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith Albertson, VP of Marketing at Telium. It's my privilege to introduce our Digital Virtuosity closing keynote speaker, Vice President and Principal Analyst of Forrester, Joe Stanhope. After Joe's presentation, we will do a few minutes of Q&A. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll let you get started.
Wonderful. Thanks for the kind introduction, Meredith. It's a pleasure to be here. Like we said, my name is Joe Stanhope. I work at Forrester Research. If you're not familiar with Forrester, we're an independent research firm. We provide data, research, and advisory services to help business and technology leaders develop and execute their customer growth strategies. I sit on Forrester's business to consumer marketing research team, and I cover enterprise marketing technology. It's my job to help brands manage and navigate the intersection of marketing and technology. Thrilled to be here today. I've been to many digital velocities over the years with Telium, and thrilled to be back, and really excited that the Telium team invited me to be back today, and that they were able to really pull up a tremendous event in very unusual circumstances for all of us. And we really appreciate all of you taking time out of your busy and undoubtedly hectic schedules to spend some time with myself and with Telium. So today, my presentation is about the future of marketing technology. It's called The Future is Now, Reimagining Data and Technology Strategy for Marketing and Consumers Moments. And really, I'm going to follow two key areas in this presentation. And as Meredith said, we'll have some time for Q&A at the very end. So we'll talk about a few extra topics then as well. But first, I want to talk about how customer engagement is changing and will continue to evolve in consumers' moments. And then I want to give you a few ideas that you can take back to the office, or as it were, back to your home office, to think about how some of these concepts and marketing and customers' moments and the tools and techniques you'll need and how those can be applied in your own business and your own situations. So let's get started. First, I want to talk about how things are changing. And I think this is pretty obvious, but consumers are incredibly connected today. And it's not just that we have devices such as a smartphone in our bags or in our pockets. It's that we use multiple devices multiple times a day in multiple locations. And these devices aren't just channels themselves, they're really portals to a whole variety of touch points that allow us to engage with one another as consumers and people, that allow us to engage with brands and allow us to conduct our business. And this level of connectivity confers access to vast amounts of information. And that really empowers consumers. And that's a big change in the way we view the world and the way we're able to engage with brands. And what that has really done is not just given us more information and empowered us, but in many ways, it makes us ever more entitled, right? It has increased our expectations for the way we engage with everybody, the way we expect to engage with brands. Essentially, what's happened is that consumers are being trained by our experiences. And you think about how you experience companies like YouTube and Amazon, Wikipedia, different media companies. All of those increase your expectations for how you engage with any other brand that you do business with. And those expectations have gotten to be very, very high. It's almost safe to say that we expect marketers now to be omniscient. Consumers expect they get exactly what they want, when and where they want it, anywhere and instantly. And in addition to that level of empowerment and entitlement and expectation, we've seen the very nature of experiences change. Experiences are now transcending actual physical products or the sale of a single product. If you think about some of the most disruptive and successful companies in the last few years, companies like Apple, like Tesla, like Amazon, you know that these companies are so much more than a company that sells computers or cars or does online commerce and retailing. What these companies have done is realize that they're going to build a lifetime set of experiences and engagement with you as the consumer, and they have wrapped a set of capabilities around their admittedly very strong products that they do sell. But we expect so much more than getting a single product from these companies. We get an ecosystem, we get software, we get community and engagement from these companies now. And again, when these companies innovate the experiences that we get, we expect that every company we work with is going to be able to do the same thing. It's a pretty short line for me being able to order new batteries from Amazon Prime in my kitchen and have it show up 48 hours later, and expecting that why shouldn't I be able to get an amazing experience from my insurance company shopping for new car insurance? And so these expectations trickle down on every company in every industry and every geography. And this has caused us to realize that marketers win by engaging in consumers' moments. That's how this breaks down now, and it's a massive sea change. We can't just rely, because of this new balance of power with empowered consumers, we can't just broadcast out to segments and audiences of consumers when we want to, telling them what we want them to hear. We've even transgressed beyond the capabilities of the digital age, where we were moving towards one-to-one or 360-degree engagement, where we were really looking at, hey, how do we start tying together multiple digital touches? How do we start measuring those things? What it's come to now is operating in moments through modern engagement. And what that means is looking at the entire customer engagement lifecycle and breaking it down into its constituent individual moments and being ready to engage with your customers in those moments at the time and in the location of their choosing. It's a really enticing concept. A lot of organizations are really on board with this and thinking through it from a vision perspective. And who wouldn't want to be able to do this? Any marketer would be really excited about having this kind of capability, because marketers of anyone in the organization really represent the interests of the customer to their company. And so we get a lot of interest in this here at Forrester, but it's still a work in progress. And I'm really proud of many Forrester clients who have been working on this for a couple of years, really getting into moments. And a lot of times the term I hear as a proxy for moments is the term personalization. I actively listen for it whenever I'm working with clients and suppliers. And really there is certainly a spectrum of what personalization can mean for a given organization. But it really represents the idea of wanting to give the customer exactly what they need, when and where they need it, and how they want to consume that information. And a lot of effort is going into this. As we see from some of our data, almost 90% of digital businesses are personalizing experiences already, and that's starting to bleed out into even taking formerly static experiences, such as the in-store experience, and learning how to personalize and tailor those experiences for consumers. And that's extremely exciting. What we still see is that the fruits of all that effort is still developing to where consumers appreciate it. And that's still where there's some work to do, where we see a delta. Only 5% of consumers see or would tell us that emails, right, are happening at the right time. You might be able to relate to that in the audience. I think we all have those experiences sometimes. 13% of young adults say that brands still aren't connecting emotionally with them. It still feels like they're just selling the next thing, and consumers don't always feel valued. So there's still a little bit of a gap between a lot of the effort and what we're starting to see at the end of the day. And the reasons for this, I think, are pretty self-evident. This is hard. This is difficult work. Brands are chasing a moving target, and they're trying to change and evolve essentially while that plane is in motion. You can't just stop all the work and wait for a couple of years to do everything again and then turn it back on. We have to keep moving forward. And the reasons that this is hard for a couple of really big capabilities. First, moments expand very dramatically the engagement landscape. That palette of touch points and devices where we can engage dramatically increases. This is part of the phenomenon of the Internet of Things, where there are so many devices in the home, in our other devices, in our computers, in our cars, where we engage. And those throw off a lot of data and information to understand our customers, but they also provide new outlets now and in the future for where we can engage with customers. And believe me, if your customers are using these devices, they probably expect for you to be there as well. Now, again, this can be very exciting, but it's also disruptive because we're always adding new capabilities, new touch points to engage, and none of the other old ones ever go away. You might remember 15 years ago, people said maybe direct mail would go away in favor of email, and yet it never did. We're always seeking this new equilibrium with this ever-expanding palette of touch points. The second big challenge is that the very nature of context around customers is changing. Historically, context around customers was pretty static, where we lived, our family units, our basic financial information, our age were very predictable and didn't change all that often. But now, partially because of all these devices, we're throwing off new data all the time, and that data is associated with a person. And that's, again, very exciting, but the speed, the volume, the type of that data has a big trickle-down effect on the kind of technologies that we need to ingest and use that data, to make decisions on it and turn it back around so that we can engage with customers the way they want to. So the bar is going up. This has created a massive upskilling of what it means to do marketing in moments, right? As you see an expansion in that breadth of engagement, the expansion as we drill down into the granularity of engagement towards the person, right? Marketing becomes very individualized. It becomes, if not real time, it works at the speed of the customer, and that is indeed very, very fast now. And it's got to become more predictive and automated so that we can just keep up with the sheer pace, volume, velocity of what's happening in customer experience. And this is where technology comes into play, that marketing, and especially marketing customer moments, is intrinsically linked to our data and our technology. And data and technology have never been more important. We need it to help us take the friction out of experiences, to anticipate what customers need, and to orchestrate and deliver those engaging experiences that consumers expect from us. Now, marketers are no strangers to technology. We have bought into technology for a long time. In fact, today, on average, about 21% of the marketing budget goes towards technology. Over the years, this has gone up a little bit, but it tends to float around 20, 23%. And that's a big slug of investment, considering the top two are typically media and people. After that comes the technology spend. What we've also seen in the last year or so is a big increase in not only the amount or volume of awareness, but direct support from senior levels of organizations for marketing technology and data investments. This is huge, right? That you're seeing executives and organizations, the C-suite, if you will, not only acknowledging, but actively supporting marketing technology. This kind of visibility is really, really powerful. I think it's very exciting, and it really goes to the impact that data and technology can have, as well as the pressure, the fundamental pressure and excitement that organizations feel at the highest level for engaging with customers in the right way and trying to keep up with those kinds of changes and shifts in the overall environment. Now, despite all those investments in technology, what we also see is that marketing technology doesn't magically solve all of our problems. We still have challenges. And what I always say is the struggle is indeed still real. When we ask marketing technology users and buyers, what are the challenges you're going to be looking to solve over the next couple of years? This is what we get back. These are the top four. We're looking at still trying to integrate online and offline activity, understanding customer behavior, retention, always important, and measurement and attribution across interactions. Now, I'll be honest with you, when I first saw this data, when we updated it most recently, I was very frustrated. It feels like we have spent billions of dollars collectively on marketing technology, and yet we're still experiencing some pretty significant challenges that I felt, and I think many felt, that marketing technology would help us resolve. Now, certainly marketing technology by any sense has been enormously successful. It's not optional. Everybody uses it. Everyone needs data and technology these days and acknowledges that. You've got a whole generation of marketers that grew up using these technologies now. It's not new. So we've elevated marketing technology, really the highest echelons of marketing requirement, and it's solved a lot of problems. In some ways, it's created some problems as well. And what this tells us is that while marketing technology is very important, that technology is really just a tool that we should be using, right? It doesn't solve problems on its own. And what I think the real silver lining is in this data is to say that I'm actually glad that marketers are citing these challenges and opportunities. I'd be more concerned if they weren't. So even if technology can be challenging sometimes, and again, that's nothing new in the history of IT and technology, even beyond marketing, the expectations, right, that marketers have appear to center around marketing in moments. They're telling us we want to integrate and operate across the customer lifecycle. They're saying, I want to understand my customers everywhere they are. They're saying we want to measure performance and how those interactions are impacting customer experience. And that's really powerful, right? It tells us that marketers are thinking about addressing marketing in moments. They actively want to. And this really sets out, I think, the expectations that we should have for how we use data and technology in the future. But we've got to overcome a few challenges before we get to that. Now, there's a few big issues that happen in marketing technology. The first is that we've assembled marketing technology and data sets in a way that aligns in siloed ways with the marketer and customer journey, right? We built up a set of mobile tools, a set of digital tools, a set of offline tools, and those systems don't always talk to each other very well. They can become fragmented very, very easily. We also still have fundamental data challenges. Firms tell us that they collect vast amounts of data, and anecdotally, I'll tell you that nobody has ever called me up and said, Joe, we need more data. Everyone's got data coming out of the woodwork. What marketers want, though, is not just to collect data. Marketers want to use data. They want to put it to work, right? And that's where we see a gap today, is the data exists, but marketers tell us that they are not using it as actively as they would like. And there are even some areas, if you look at the bottom of the figure, such as mobile, where even data collection still lags where it probably should be. And we need to work on even some of the data collection capabilities. Because if you're not collecting the data, that clearly would kneecap your ability to apply it. We've also seen, just because of the number of applications, the number of tools, the organic growth of marketing technology and data as customer experience and marketing expands, substantial and massive complexity. We hear this all the time. We used to hear it more from the technical marketing technologists. Now we hear it from the marketers themselves. The complexity of marketing and technology and data today really gets in the way of their ability to deliver the experiences that they want to. We hear a lot about redundancy in technology sets and just the overall notion that standing up, managing, maintaining over the long term, doing the integration work, the training, the vendor management is enormously complicated and resource intensive. And for many organizations, that doesn't feel sustainable anymore. So how do we move forward? Because that's why we're all here today. That's why we've come to enjoy digital velocity with Telium and our colleagues and peers. How do we move this forward and turn these opportunities into something that we can use in our own organizations? And what I would suggest to you is a rethink, changing our mindset about these technologies so we can use data and technology differently. And if we use them differently than we do today, we can establish sustainable competitive differentiators against the other companies in our respective marketplaces. So I've got 3 big ideas that I want to throw out to you, and I want to talk about 3 big opportunities to differentiate and evolve the way you use technology and data in your marketing organization today. And again, it's my hope that you can take these back to your organization, think about how they would apply to your specific situation, and apply some of these capabilities to create your own sustainable competitive differentiation. The first focuses on the data. Again, we want to activate data, not just curate it. Just collecting data, storing data, hoarding data is not enough for the marketer. Marketer is the fuel in our engine. Marketing data is the fuel in our engine today. It fills up our marketing technology and makes it possible to develop the insights and engage with customers the way we want to. We need that information to track every touch, every engagement, the results of those engagements, and connect them. So data is really, in many ways, the most important aspect, our most important asset that we have as marketers that paves the way for everything we want to do. A lot of organizations are really coming around to this idea because after you've bought all the technology and worked with all the providers, what's left? Mastering the data. Now, mastering data comes in 2 critical dimensions. First is having a robust set of customer data from which to work. Now, there's really good news here. There is a lot of data, again, at our disposal, right? Marketers are really excited about this because never before in the history of marketing have we had access to so much amazing data. Now, we've got to be really smart with how we use data because there are new requirements, privacy regulations, different kinds of mandates and best practices around how we use data in the right ways. But that data is available, and if you're using it the correct way, it's enormously powerful. The potential to build really powerful customer profiles has never been greater. And that data, as I said, becomes the key to developing insights and engagement. Because marketers have lots of different access to information. We have access to third-party data, which is enormously helpful for understanding segmentation of data, our customers' interests, their inferred intentions. We have access to second-party data, increasing interest in second-party and cooperative data sets to create unique access to information now. This can tell us with our partners when we work together how to reach customers and what information and content and offers are going to be most relevant and timely. And of course, first-party data is the gold standard, customer data. It's what we own. It's what we are natively organically generating. It tells us who those customers are, how they interact with us, and what their buying signs are. And beyond that, ultra-powerful zero-party data. This is the information that consumers voluntarily share with us. And this really goes to building trust and consent with customers. What are their preferences? What are their interests? And this is the most valuable data of all. And these master sets of data create that potential to build great profiles and gather all the information we need, not only to understand our customers, but to engage with them in the right way, to target them in the right way, to gain reach into the right devices and touch points, and of course, in retrospect, to measure and evaluate how we did. The second major dimension of this is being able to connect that data. Once you connect that data, you need to assemble it into customer profiles in the right way. So we can associate, for example, all of Joe's information with one single profile, or maybe with that household, or with that set of devices. What we've got to understand about identity is it's not a singular golden record. It is not binary, as in it would be on or off. Identity is actually a progressive build over time. We build customer profiles and we assemble them progressively throughout the customer engagement life cycles. We get to know a customer more and gather more information about them. We can build not only deeper profiles, but we can identify them in more ways, and that allows us to tie together more sets of data. So identity resolution, this assembly from raw data to customer profiles, becomes a very cyclical, always-on process where we can connect data along with those identity keys, use the techniques available to us to match that together, and that creates what we call the identity graph, which has gotten a lot of play with our customers lately because they're thinking about how powerful having that identity graph is to build effective profiles. Once you've got that identity graph, you match it up and you use it to build, again, that customer profile, which is what we know about them. And then you're really in business. With a profile and with that identity graph, you're able to really take that data and push it to those systems of insight and systems of engagement so you can interact with your customers in the right way. My second big idea is around rethinking the way we consider the technology itself. I want us to refocus on what I call strategic technology. Now, as I said earlier, we're spending a lot of money and a lot of resource on marketing technology. And that's great because we do need it. What can happen, though, is it's a double-edged sword. And sometimes marketing technology starts to become a victim of its own success, as we've seen. And part of the reason for that is there's just so much of it. We have sets of marketing technology for every situation, every scenario, every touch point, every capability. And on the surface, that's very good. Competitive technology markets benefit marketers and organizations, but it's overwhelming. And as I said, complex to look at this massive market of technologies and decide what's right for you. A lot of our clients really struggle with procurement of technology because it's just overwhelming. And they're trying to figure out what matches up to what they've bought already and what all these acronyms can mean. It becomes, in a sense, a shopping list of tools that you might need. And at Forrester alone, we track over 30 different kinds of business to consumer marketing technology. If you added in all the infrastructure and security and analytics technologies, it would be over 60 different kinds of marketing technology. There's so many different categories. So I have a different way for you to think about this. First, I want to back up and actually simplify this as much as possible so we can take a really smart view of that ecosystem of technologies that are available to you. And the best way that I can think to do this is I divide the world of marketing technology up into two categories. That's right, only two categories. I break it up into systems of insight and systems of engagement. And I know it sounds crazy because it's only two and there are over 60 larger scale categories that I just mentioned. How can that be possible? But this works really well. And in fact, Forrester uses this construct of systems of insight and engagement across all enterprise technologies, not just marketing, but it works particularly well in our world. If you look at what a system of insight is, it is a system that helps you analyze and develop insights about customers. If you look at systems of engagement, it does just that. It is the system that helps you orchestrate and deliver and manage actual interactions with customers. And when you look at every single type of marketing technology, it always cleanly breaks down into one of these two sides of the wheel. Now, of course, that is simplified, and that doesn't always reflect real life. It is always more complicated than that, and we certainly recognize that. But we take this basic construct, which allows you to really break down a very complicated world into something that's much easier to digest and understand and think through in the context of your own organization. And we put together what we call a marketing tech stack framework. People ask me all the time, Joe, just tell us what we need to buy, or what is the perfect marketing technology stack look like? And unfortunately, the reality is that your needs are all very diverse. Your starting points are different. You're in different industries. You have different strategic mandates, different kinds of engagement with customers, different levels of overall maturity in your marketing practices. There's no singular marketing tech stacks that everybody should buy. But unfortunately, I have to say that I don't have a single answer for that, and I wish I did. What we do have is this framework, and it follows the system of insight to engagement concept, and it sets out four major categories of marketing technology that you're going to need to do your marketing work: the data fabric, customer understanding, brand strategy, and brand experience. And when you have those technologies, and that they work together as a single unit, not disparate technologies, they give you access to those touch points, and they help you work across that customer life cycle. Within those four categories, there are 12 individual technology sets that you're going to have to fill in at some point. And this is where this framework comes in really handy, because you can look at this and you can consider what you have today and whether or not what you have today is working well. From how many vendors do you have that? Then we can start to identify possible gaps, areas of improvement, areas where upgrades are needed, things you're still working on. And it allows us to really build out a roadmap for how you want to develop marketing technology over the course of time that fills out every aspect of this. The other major piece of this is understanding which of your technologies are strategic and which ones are tactical. We tend to think about every marketing technology and piece of data as being equally important, but that's actually not true. Some of these technologies, and again, it'll vary depending on your business and how you work, some of these technologies are going to have a major impact on how you engage with customers and the return you get on your marketing investments. And some of these are going to be more commoditized. They're more readily available. You might have partners that run them, and you still need them, but they are somewhat less impactful directly on the customer experience. They're more mechanical and logistical in how you operate. And if we can differentiate between strategic partners and tactical capabilities, we can start directing more resources to the the strategic capabilities, invest in those, and thus accelerate how we engage with customers in the right direction. And we can maintain the commoditized capabilities at a functional level without over-investing in those capabilities. So really take a firm eye and take a look at what do we have today and what are we trying to build out, and in the other dimension, what is strategic and what's tactical to us. The other way to think about the marketing technology stack is what I call future-proofing. We don't always know what the future is going to hold, right? Things are changing all the time. We know that there's going to be new capabilities. Marketing is in a kind of a constant state of disruption. So we know that things are going to change, but we don't know always exactly how. So we need to plan really far in advance with our marketing technology so we don't have to constantly re-platform or make changes. And that means we have to decide to make certain investments that will last longer than others and be more strategic than others, as I mentioned. We think there are 6 key capabilities that you need to invest in to future-proof your technology set, to make yourself, in a sense, plug and play and highly adaptable and nimble in a changing environment. And that starts with the data fabric, having the identity resolution and data management capabilities to cope with any kind of data. And if you have that data foundation, you can plug any application into it. You shouldn't have to recreate that data asset every time we want to innovate in marketing. We want to have optimization capabilities so we can quickly test and learn and optimize across the journey. We need to reprioritize how we manage content, because as we accelerate marketing, we're going to need more content in more places. So we need to start atomizing content, having repeatability, streamline the way we work with it. We need customer journey analytics, not channel analytics. We've got to start looking at the total customer journey and measuring that for return on marketing investment. And we need to think about consolidating how we orchestrate experiences. Having multiple parallel execution systems is very, very labor intensive, very disruptive, very fragmented for actual delivery of experiences. We have to start unifying how we orchestrate everything into one system and then push actual delivery out to that edge. My third and final big idea is thinking about artificial intelligence. I want you to accelerate your exploration of artificial intelligence today. And I know there's been a huge and noisy amount of discussion in the marketing world about artificial intelligence. A lot of excitement for a lot of different reasons. It is, in a sense, the new black. And sometimes people even roll their eyes. We get a little bit upset about AI because it feels like it may have jumped the shark a little bit. But I'm very bullish, and I think it's very important. I think we need to pay attention to it now. And the reason for that is because marketers need artificial intelligence. The simple reality is, and I'm not trying to be pejorative, is that the sophistication, the volume, the scale, the velocity, the complexity of customer experience today has gone beyond what human brains can manage. We can only look at so much data. We can only run so many processes with our current tools. We can only look at so much data and so many reports. We need help, and artificial intelligence can be that enhancement on top of marketers' skills that let us get that job done. This isn't about replacing marketers in any way, and this isn't saying that marketers aren't great at their jobs. Artificial intelligence is going to be amazing because it's actually going to help marketers get back to their jobs, being strategic customer advocates, as opposed to constantly repeating the same labor-intensive tasks or falling behind. So we need to look at how AI can really enhance what marketers do today so that we can maintain the pace. And when we think about AI, the reason there's so much excitement about it is AI is really great at solving certain problem sets, complex, data-rich, iterative problem sets. That's where AI in any application really excels. But you know what? That sounds a lot like marketing to me. Marketing today is certainly complex and data-rich and iterative. And that's why AI really dovetails so nicely into a lot of these discussions. But where I want you to start, and again, we're never going to tell you to turn marketing over to a computer or say that the computer is replacing marketers. That's absolutely not happening. This is an enhancement play. But I want you to start looking at practical, bite-sized applications of artificial intelligence now, because there are things you can do with AI today that are very powerful and useful and interesting. You can use it to support ad buys, more powerful personalization, surfacing insights you probably wouldn't have found on your own just by exploring, optimizing send time and content, looking at audience creation, audience discovery capabilities. These are contained use cases that you can experiment with now. And the reason it's interesting to experiment with AI now is you can start developing a competence with artificial intelligence, measuring how well it works, make the business case for ongoing investment, and really prove out that it works for you. And the reason I think it's important to start now is because AI capabilities are only going to become more powerful and more important in the future. But if you wait until these use cases are very broad, it's going to be hard to catch up and prove that they work. So if you can start with contained, smaller use cases in sandboxes, prove that they work, and develop out from there, you'll be ready when some of these future use cases arrive in the near future. What's also important to think about is AI isn't just a bunch of algorithms, and it's not just a math tool or a computer system. AI affects how you organize and operate as a marketer. So we need to evolve marketing operations alongside our AI adoption, because AI is going to need more data. AI is going to need more content. It's going to learn so quickly that marketing, our skills, our operations are going to have to accelerate along with our use of AI. So gradual adoption today, starting today, of artificial intelligence allows us to adapt our organizational and operational capabilities to maximize the impact of these tools. The net effect of all these ideas we've been talking about today is that I want you to be able to break free from the tyranny of commoditization. Because the reality is your competitors can get all the same tools that you have. They can even get a lot of the same data that you have. They can hire very smart people as well. So how do you create differentiation and the potential for competitive differentiation from your competitors? I think one of the ways you've got to do it is by using data and technology smarter and faster in a more innovative way than your competitors can. If you can control your customer data and be smarter and match up better profiles from your customer, that is very hard for your competitors to replicate and recreate. If you know which technologies are most strategic and impactful, and you're making the right investments in there, you have the potential to accelerate customer experience much faster than your competitors do. And that's why I think this is so important. And so there's three big takeaways that I just want to close with before we go to Q&A session. One, when you're thinking about these investments and capabilities, never let features and functionality overshadow integration. You're always going to be adding new capabilities to an existing set of marketing technologies and data. So how those systems work together as a group is more important than any single tool or any single set of features and functionality. So whenever you're buying something new, really think about it, how it works with the greater whole of your marketing technology stack, the data application and workflows, and make sure those work together the right way. Also, whenever you're making investments, look at it as an opportunity to standardize and eliminate any other functional overlaps that may have occurred previously. Second, invest in high value components over commodities, right? You're going to have to invest in the full stack, but make sure you target your resources, your people, your highest levels of knowledge towards the most impactful and strategic partners and technologies. In insights, I think that revolves around optimization and journey analytics, and the delivery of engagement. I think that right now is going to be very much so about content and orchestration. And then finally, always keep an eye on the future. Be building for that future, because you know things are going to change. You don't want to have to start from scratch later or tear out capabilities that you've invested heavily in to accommodate what's coming down the pipe. So one, in our technologies, we've got to stay open and extensible, right? You're going to have to pull out some tools in the future, add new ones. We know we're going to be getting new channels, touch points, and devices. We need to be able to interact with those without replatforming. You may even get to the point where you start developing some of your own capabilities, some of your own applications, your own data sets. So even for internal extensibility, you want to have the most flexible platforms possible. And finally, always be thinking about, when in doubt, double down on the data fabric. If you've got the right data foundation, it has deep and complete data, that data is portable, that data is fast, and it moves at the speed of your customer experiences, you can replace any application you want, but maintain continuity based on that foundation of data.
Thank you so much, Joe, for being with us today. That was just a really great presentation to close on. I still think I'm recovering a little bit from the fact that you have categorized all of the marketing technologies in just 2 categories, which kind of blew my mind. So it's still taking me a moment to get past that. That was really cool.
Glad you liked it.
All right, well, we've got a few questions that I wanted to run through. We've got a few minutes here, making sure that we don't run over on time so everybody can get on with their day. So my first question is around finding balance between marketing in moments and campaigning. So customer journey approaches are somewhat rigid, but moments are infinite. So what are some practical tips you would give on balancing that?
Well, I think that they don't replace one another, right? They coexist. You could in fact say that campaigns are populated by moments. In a way, moments are the most atomic way to think about engaging with customers or prospective customers. I think also it's something that can be built up gradually. There will always be a place for campaigns. For example, we're always going to want to do a launch around a new product, right? Or launching, say, we're opening new stores or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. These things will happen. So you're going to want to have specific campaigns, a construct by which we can proactively communicate, with customers. But I think over time, the idea of a moment and a campaign converge, right? Where campaigns actually drive moments as outcomes, as opposed to a campaign being a discrete, a single thing where it starts and stops at a specific time. So campaigns eventually, I think, become like less channel and time bound. They become more of the start of a journey as opposed to the start and end of one. And we really recommend that people take this gradually, right? This can be hard. It takes effort to build up to this, but a series of moments can just be 2 interactions that are connected, right, in a campaign or a broader journey. And you can literally start out in that simple of a way and build up gradually over time from there.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. So I want to take advantage for a moment of the fact that you are out in the field. Well, maybe not out in the field today, but you are talking to so many companies. Yeah. And so how are companies organizing and developing the skills, the teams to really handle all this data and all this technology in this environment?
Yeah, it's a great question because somebody has to do the work, and it definitely takes skills. There's been a historical challenge in the area of marketing technology that it hasn't always had a good home. Sometimes marketing technology ownership falls between the cracks, somewhere between marketing and maybe IT. Some companies aren't quite sure exactly where it should live or who is ultimately in charge of it. And increasingly that causes some problems, right? Because the marketing technology, as we know, has become complex. There is a lot of it, and it's very, very important. If it isn't handled well, right, you can run into some very significant problems, performance issues, and negative customer experience, or even financial returns. So the last couple of years, I'd say we've seen an ongoing and increasing desire from our clients to think about how they organize correctly to handle all this data and technology. Mm-hmm. And there is the idea that there are kinds of organizations that can work better than others. It does vary by the kind of company. There's not necessarily a right or wrong answer to it, but the idea that there should be some kind of a specific marketing technology team, whether or not that lives in marketing, whether or not that lives in IT, can be quite variable. The number of resources or even full-time resources in that group. But the realization that marketing technology has reached the point where a dedicated team with specialized skills has to be able to operate it today. And it's up to every organization to find the ideal location and staffing plan for that group. But you can't just take random technically inclined people and expect them to stand up and manage these technologies anymore, even if you've set aside the FTEs. So we're seeing a lot of ramp up in having kind of dedicated named teams that are specifically responsible for it. And as those ramp up, they become almost by necessity, really the experts in the clearinghouse on the data side, and oftentimes even on the analytics and data science side of things. They really become that tip of the spear for not just managing the technology for their business partners in the marketing team, but for really understanding the data itself and making sure that fuel is in the marketing technology engine, and sometimes being very involved in the analytics and performance measurement as well.
Wow. Well, I thank you so much for sharing that with our audience today. I want to take a step back and go back to the moments-based marketing for just a second. What is the best way to start drilling down into moments-based marketing so that marketers can effectively shift their perspective and make this type of approach viable for their companies?
Yeah, I would say I look at it as a prioritization project. A lot of companies, especially companies that are deeply involved and passionate about overall customer experience, are prone to doing like journey mapping exercises and those kinds of things. And that's really productive and really powerful work. Where it can become slightly challenging is to say, now we need to go either upgrade or fix or review, right, or optimize these big customer journeys. And that's very overwhelming because customer journeys, there are many customer journeys, right? Even if you roll them up to bigger archetypes, there's so many permutations of journeys. And journeys can be big. There can be a lot of touches, right, and interactions within a journey. Optimizing that whole thing off the bat, essentially going from 0 to 60, is almost impossible. Even from like a mathematics and computing perspective, how would you optimize that much in one fell swoop? So I look at it as an exercise in prioritization, because what I encourage clients to do is to map out some of those critical journeys and understand where do we interact and what are those interactions, and do an analysis exercise to figure out which components or moments within those journeys are most impactful. Because we might have many interactions in a journey, but not all of them, again, almost like marketing technology, not all of them have the same level of importance. Right? There might be certain moments within a journey that are truly the tipping point to reaching the end point or the desired conversion or the desired outcome, right? And other ones happen and they're there, but they are less directly correlated to the outcome. And so I think there's an analysis exercise with journeys to figure out what are the critical moments within this one, this particular journey. And then looking and saying, okay, those are the ones we should prioritize optimizing. Those are the moments where we need to get in there and make sure they're most impactful, the most relevant, in the right device with the best content, because those have the biggest impact on customer journey outcomes and on our customer experiences. So if you can figure out which moments are the most important and impactful, then you can really build out a roadmap of how are we going to optimize those. And I've had clients that have said, we've done that work and we realistically can only optimize 3 new moments a year, right? Because we're already very busy. We have limited resources. We're going to have to maybe get some more data and technology in place to do it. We can bite off optimizing 3 new moments every single calendar year. And they build that plan and they work with their stakeholders in IT, enterprise architecture, the CX teams, their executives. And yet, essentially, you're prioritizing, creating that list of moments, and you're putting them in the order of which ones you're going to resolve and improve and when. And you basically work through that great big list of continuous optimization.
So it's a little bit like almost selecting that quality over quantity sort of line of thinking when looking at that.
That's right. And there's absolutely, I don't want to sound bad, but like low-hanging fruit out there. There are some simple changes to specific moments that you can make that are enormously powerful and impactful. And we see it all the time.
Well, Joe, I think we're about out of time, but gosh, thank you so much again for keynoting and closing out our day. We can't thank you enough for your time. I know the audience really enjoyed it. I know I did, but just wanted to say thank you one more time and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be back at Digital Velocity. Have a great day. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. What a fantastic day. We hope you had an amazing experience and captured some inspiring ideas and actionable learnings. I did want to take a moment to go through a few housekeeping items. First and foremost, thank you to our amazing customers, our partners, and members of the Telium team for working so hard to bring you all this great content to our DV attendees today. We will be sending follow-up information shortly to all of our registrants on accessing some of these presentations on demand. If you had a good time today, please share the love on social media and tag Telium and use the hashtag #JoinTheDatalution. On behalf of Telium, thank you again so much for being with us. Stay safe, and we will see you soon.